silver thread in the dust. First light drapes the Superstition Mountains in a wash of dull gold that only miners and coyotes witness. Saguaros stand like motionless sentries, while a single rider crosses the dry riverbed called Queen Creek. The horse's hooves raise puffs of chalky dust that drift behind like smoke from a slow-burning fuse. Campfires scattered below Picket Post Mountain fade to embers as prospectors rise. They notice the rider at a distance, but do not call out. A hush that belongs at funerals settles over the tents, as if every man remembers a superstition, too old to mock before breakfast. At the gulch mouth, the rider dismounts, checks a compass the size of a pocket watch, then slips into shadow. Her name is Ada Harrison. Newspapers will describe her as a widow from Missouri, educated, well-spoken, the sort of woman expected to teach piano rather than swing a pick. Men around the coffee pots know another version. She is the one who studies bedrock until her eyes water, who packs supplies so precisely that even the shovel handle is wrapped in oiled cloth. They respect her for what she knows and fear her for what she refuses to say. In mining law, the land keeps score. For every ounce of silver taken, something is owed. No one can agree on the price. Yet when Ada rides out, seasoned hard rock diggers pause mid-sip. Silence follows her like a second shadow, and silence out here is often a warning that cannot be ignored. Ada among the Saguaros. Spring of 1893 finds the Arizona Territory between identities. Railroads lace the mesas, telegraph lines hum, and surveyors talk of statehood, yet most official maps still fade into blank beige where the superstitions rise. Into this contradiction rides Ada Harrison, 32, her morning dress packed away with Missouri memories she never unrolls. Ada's first weeks are a lesson in frontier arithmetic. Water is life, shade is currency, silence is strategy. She pitches her wall tent near Gonzales Wash, bracing the uprights with driftwood ribs. In the heat, she copies field sketches into a small ledger bound in red leather. Sun peels paint from wagons around her, but her pages remain unblemished under the neat slant of her pen. The camps are not kind to newcomers, less so to women. Yet Ada parlays knowledge into space. When a windlass collapses at the Rawhide claim, she sketches a safer pulley system on the back of a freight invoice. Men grumble, test it, and adopt it by nightfall. That same evening, a gambler named Burke tries to glimpse her notebook while pretending to light a cigar. Without raising her voice, Ada asks if he needs a map to the nearest latrine. Laughter blooms, Burke departs, and the ledger stays shut. She rides at dusk when the desert trades heat for long blue shadows. Her bay gelding, Solomon, follows faint cattle paths that twist between barrel cactus. Sometimes she dismounts to tap quartz seams with a rock hammer, listening for the ring that hints at hidden veins. She returns before dawn, dust crusted on her collar. No one sees her wash, but every morning her clothes are spotless, her gear rearranged as though checked against invisible inventory. Rumor grows that she has found an anomaly, a spot where compasses spin and ore tastes sweet on the tongue. Older prospectors whisper their suspicion into tin cups. Knowledge is power, but mystery is leverage. Ada appears unfazed, yet every sunrise she glances toward the dark cut of the gulch, as if taking attendance of secrets only she can name. The Silken Map. Storm season arrives early that year. In late August, thunderheads pile against the superstitions like warships in gray formation. Sheets of rain turn arroyos into rust-colored torrents. On such a night, Ada gallops into camp drenched, Solomon lathered, a square of ivory silk clamped beneath her oilskin jacket. Lanterns sputter under the mess awning as she unrolls the cloth. It is 20 inches square, heavy as formal cravat fabric. Black ink flows across it in curves that recall the Gila River, yet double back in ways no watercourse does. Between the lines, a second pattern gleams. Tilt the silk and metallic tracery flashes, as though liquid silver has been woven into the weft. Tiny brown specks freckle one corner, oxidized too dark for fresh blood, yet unmistakably organic. Ada requests the telegraph operator. Inside the canvas booth, rain hammers the roof like fists. She writes 3 lines on onion skin paper. Claim secured, coordinates follow, trust the bearer. She seals the note with resin, slides it across the table, pockets the return receipt, and steps into the downpour. By morning, her bunk is vacant, her tent rope coiled on its peg. Only the silk remains. Weeks pass. Posse searches find nothing. No hoofprints beyond the first washout, no abandoned tools, no disturbed cairns. Autumn pushes miners south to lower diggings. They leave the silk in the paymaster's lockbox, fearful to keep it, yet unwilling to discard. January brings a freight convoy, and with it, the Half Moon Saloon in Globe, a town that smells of coal smoke and ambition. The silk surfaces in a poker game when a short-stacked prospector wages it against a pair of jacks. The dealer, noticing the strange shimmer, goads the pot upward. By sunrise, the cloth is worth $2,000 in promissory notes, a figure high enough to pay off most men's past mistakes. The winner, Tom Catclaw Reyes, tucks it inside his vest and leaves before breakfast. His departure restarts the legend with new directions and a sharper edge. 3 who followed. Tom Catclaw Reyes, son of a Yaqui mother and a Missouri cavalry deserter, reads maps like sermons. He spreads the silk in lamplight, searches for star patterns, and convinces himself the lines depict constellations drawn to ground scale. On the February morning he departs, he carries minimal gear, 2 water skins, and a telescope more suited to astronomy than prospecting. 6 weeks later, a mule wanders into the Lazy 8 ranch outside Florence. Saddle empty, packs torn, but tied to the cinch ring is a piece of silk ripped along a fold. Ranch hands trace cat-claw boot prints to a narrow fissure where spring meltwater seeps. The prints end abruptly, as though cut by a straight edge. They lower a lantern into the crevice. White granite walls fall away into silent dark. The silk fragment is returned to the paymaster and stored again. Enter Big Willis Grant, once an itinerant preacher who blessed railroad spikes before they were driven. He claims the cloth next, announcing that the scrollwork echoes Revelation imagery. Grant pins Bible verses to juniper trunks as trail markers, confident no worldly hazard can touch him. His final sighting is at Red Tank, singing hymns while filling canteens. 3 days later, a ranch foreman finds his horse grazing, saddlebags intact. Footprints loop among mesquite like a child's careless drawing, then stop in hardpan. Grant's Bible pages flutter in the shrubs, but the horse bears a new adornment, a strip of silk tied to the bridle knot. Last is Clara Moore, 17, face freckled, voice low from months passing as a boy on the cattle trail. She wins the remaining fragment at a county fair by sinking 3 throwing knives in a row. With 2 companions, she rides toward Picket Post Mountain. A freight driver sees their tight camp at dusk, gear arranged soldier neat. When he passes again at dawn, fire cold, tent folded, horses hobbled and calm, but the 3 sleepers are gone. A strand of silk, ink washed pale by dew, is pinned to a yucca leaf, as though waiting for someone to notice and take the hint. The Territory Press references none of these vanishings directly. Editors fear talk of curses could spook investors. Instead, obituaries mention accidents without bodies. Around barrel stove circles, the phrase Ada's quiet starts to mean a disappearance, with no trace and no witness, the worst fate in a land where even tragedies prefer to leave evidence. Night wind theories. When facts run thin, theories breed like jackrabbits. Some miners claim the silk is a Spanish Jesuit cipher, proof of a mission cache hidden before the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. They note the cloth's French maker's mark and imagine it was cut from a European vestment. Apache elders shrug. The symbols are not their petroglyphs, yet they repeat an older cautionary yarn. A pale woman lured Spanish soldiers into a valley that moved like a mirage and never released those who marched under banners of greed. A Pinkerton agent named Morton Dunn examines the cloth under field glass. He identifies the silver shimmer as mercury nitrate, used in advanced ore assays. He speculates that when pressed wet against a rock face high in silver sulfide, the reagent darkens, revealing the richest exposures. If Ada invented such a test, she possessed technology decades ahead of standard camps. Accounts ledger in Tucson records a deposit from an A. Harrison 2 months after her disappearance. The teller remembers a customer with gloves and a flat accent. Skeptics argue Ada faked her vanishing, laundering bullion under a false initial. Supporters say the teller misheard, and A. Harrison could just as easily have been Albert or Amos. Modern anomalies add fuel. Surveyors in the 1930s note compass needles spinning near Picket Post Mountain. Photographic plates fog in calm air. In the 1970s, ham radio operators log sudden bursts of static that trace to no storm. 21st century hikers report GPS dropouts that last minutes, coordinates skating across screens like water striders. Geologists blame magnetic variation, yet they agree no ore sample from the area justifies readings that strong. Collectively, the stories form a shape like the silk map itself, lines that double back, ending where they begin. Within the loops, hide fleeting possibilities: curse, hoax, murder, salvation. Choose one, and the others fade into desert haze. Echoes beyond the campfire. Today, the Superstitions are a wilderness area patrolled by rangers who know every legal trail. Yet they still find unauthorized fire rings near Ada's Gulch, ashes cool beside boot prints pointing nowhere. Drone pilots swear their batteries falter over the same ravine. Data cards return blank, except for a single corrupt frame that shows only gray. In Phoenix, a small museum keeps a cyanotype photograph of the silk taken before the original vanished. Visitors press fingertips to glass, confident they see fresh meaning in the faded markings. Each month, curators receive letters with proposed decodings, some mathematical, others mystical, none align. Late spring breezes carry faint hoofbeats across Weaver's Needle. Campers sit up, listening for horses that never appear. One veteran trail guide says the sound is wind caught in a vertical crack. Another smiles and replies that wind rarely keeps perfect 4-beat time. The story persists because it balances greed with wonder. If Ada died, the map is a cautionary tale. If she lived wealthy under another name, the map is a masterstroke of misdirection. Each possibility pulls treasure hunters off marked routes and into open desert where the only certainty is heat and the ticking of unseen watches. The superstitions remain silent on which version they prefer. Until the mountains themselves choose a tongue, the riddle of Ada Harrison hums on after sundown, just beyond the reach of campfire light. Wanderers lean closer, and in that moment, silence once again becomes the most convincing lure the desert